Hi, Jana. Welcome to our show. Welcome to the
Hello,
podcast.
Albert. Hello. Hello.
I'm very happy to have you here. I've been very excited about this topic and having this conversation with you, especially
Yeah.
about all what we discussed about the trauma and all these events in our life. Maybe you can start by giving us some background about you, and then we can see how it goes.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. And yeah, like about the background, I am a coach. I work with emotional trauma healing. And I work in modalities like IFS, internal family systems, and EFT, emotional freedom technique. So those are two techniques that I use at my work. Yeah, so that would be about me. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's very
thank you.
okay. Yeah, we'll get to that later. But first, what I wanted to ask you is like, how would you define the trauma itself?
Mhm.
Because for many people, like or listeners now watching, they will hear trauma and they might think of big things, like very upsetting events and unfortunate things that happened in their lives. But I believe that trauma has a different definition, maybe. So can you elaborate on that?
Yes, definitely. There are like obviously like there are certain experiences that can like create the trauma, and it's kind of obvious, like war or like experience of like rape or like some intense like physical experience. But there is also this emotional trauma that can be more kind of silent, like less talked about, and it can be like maybe even like after like many years also challenging to pinpoint. And it's not necessarily like one time event. It can be like series of events that create trauma because it kept happening many times. And maybe if it would happen like one time, it's kind of like your system in your nervous system would kind of like manage it, and it would not maybe create like a problem that you would carry into adulthood. um but yeah, so I think that yeah,
Yeah,
it could be like recurring events, and during our like early lives when we are like really vulnerable, um and yeah, and often like what happens like when we are young, our thinking conscious mind is not available to us. So then we are looking at things very um subjectively, and we take things personally, and it can really like things can like really hurt us, so. And yeah, so I hope that
absolutely.
answers your question.
Yeah. The interesting word that you mentioned is that it will create problems for you later.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about these problems? How does it look like, and how do you know that you are having problems because of your trauma?
Yeah, it can be like what we just talked now. Well, before we start to record, it can be like um, problems, like physical problems. Let's say you have like issues with your body. It can be problems like in your relationships, in your like, do you have problems with finances, for instance? So it can be, or there's just simply you feel like, oh, you lack confidence. You are shy, you're timid, you experience a lot of shame, and things maybe that could be easy or very difficult for you. So and that's usually the point where we start looking into things. We start looking into the past, and kind of like we start connecting the dots, I think. So yeah, that's usually
Right.
the turning point
Right.
where
Yeah,
we
I'm
start looking
especially
like, okay, why?
interested. Yeah, I you mentioned like all of these make sense, but you said financial problems. What do you mean by that? How could trauma create financial problems? For me, this sounds like something materialistic.
Mhm. It could be like from the top of my mind, it could be, for instance, like lack of confidence, that you lack confidence, and then um, you don't really use your potential. Maybe you will be stuck in like some 9 to 5 job, just kind of like playing it small, and you will not have the confidence to, for instance, like earn more money, or perhaps it could be like a conditioning, that that was imprinted into you when you were young, and then all these like beliefs around money that are now no longer serving you and are like really holding you back, so it could be
Yeah. So do you
connected, like
find from what you're saying, do you find a link between self-limiting beliefs and trauma? Do you see a common ground between these two things?
Yeah, between of course, yeah. I think it's all connected. Like emotions are connected with like limiting beliefs. That is connected with like the way we feel, we think. The beliefs we hold about ourselves and the world around us. And like the whole like our inner system. How we are wired. How we perceive things, how we experience the world. What we consider dangerous, what we consider like how much like also protective mechanisms we have, like because that's also part of the internal family systems where we work with protectors, because they were really necessary at one point of our lives, and they protected us, and they were really working hard, and now maybe they are still doing the same, even though the circumstances have changed. So
yeah, this is very interesting and unconventional, I would say untypical way to think about like the consequences in our lives and what is the source of it. And I don't think many people, at least for me, I didn't used to think of it this way. Like I didn't think that trauma could cause these consequences. So do you think that someone could figure it out on his own, or do they need professional help in order to find out the source of their problems? For example, if I'm having, as you said, low self-esteem or confidence problems, can I dig deep inside myself and find out the reasons, or do I require like a professional help with that?
I would say it's a combination of like it's really it depends, like where are you, how much trauma do you have. And I don't know, I like my journey was like a combination of things, like working with like coaches or therapists, and then like later on like doing also the work by myself, because the therapist or coach is available like I don't know, once per week or once per month, but like these triggers happen like on a daily basis, and then it's good to let's say know a technique or have a practice, where I can help myself also, so it's not, so I'm not like only like relying perhaps on therapist, even though that could be at the beginning the main thing, but then later on like I'm able also like to help myself and to address the problems and the triggers, when I get angry, when I get sad, when I feel anxiety, so then I know how to what to do in the moment, and how to help
but
myself.
I'm especially talking about the first step. Like, how would you connect the dots and figure out that your past trauma is causing you these present issues? Because you might, like, for example, I can relate on examples from my life. So I can recall, for example, some traumas I had in the past, and I am aware about on some problems I'm having currently in the present. But it was really difficult for me to link the two things, to know that these traumas caused these problems. That's the hard part. How do you think about that?
Yeah, so maybe in this case, like I would use like somebody to help me to connect the dots, to and usually like the session always starts with like, okay, so what's the problem, right? Because usually we come to like therapy or like coaching session because we want to resolve like some issue, right? And then an experienced coach or therapist, they can help you to kind of like link it to earlier events, and like what happened. And sometimes we can do this on our own, and sometimes we need help, and especially at the beginning, I think it makes a lot of sense, that somebody's holding space for you, because sometimes you can also cognitively like know like what happened and why, and but also experientially, so we can also experientially like and that's so we can do this experientially as well, and feel the feelings, feel the emotions, and this is always it can be easier, like with the person there holding space for you.
Right. Yeah. So it's from what you're saying, it's like a collaborative work between you
I would say
and the professional person.
I would say you can also like start usually people also start with like maybe some meditations or maybe some practices, and then like they feel like, okay, like I would want to go deeper further, and because they see it's helping them, and then you will naturally like find somebody to help you, and then maybe you will learn some modality, and you will also like I like and I also do it like on a meetup platform to do like a group sessions. That's also like a nice way where you don't get this like undivided one-on-one attention, but there is some space, and people deal with similar problems, so so you feel like you're not the only one, and that can also be very healing, I think, these group sessions, because
So you think group sessions are helpful and healing? Because
it can be,
I
but
have
I
a
think
different opinion on that. It's not, I wouldn't say it's not helpful, but I think it gives you very minimal opportunity to talk about your problems. And I believe that here is the point that I want to mention next, is the subjectivity of the trauma and the trauma response. So I believe that everyone has a different response to traumatic events that they go through in their lives. And this also matters because not like if you even met someone with the same history, let's say they had the same event, but you both could develop different responses against that event.
I totally agree with this. Yeah, it's definitely like you would often hear like, oh, I don't know, like siblings, they had the same childhood, like, and one turned out like this way, another one turned out differently. So I definitely like agree with this, and it's because it's individual. The experience is individual. Our systems respond differently. And even though on the outside it might seem like, okay, it's the same, but it's not. So,
Right. Yeah, that's also insightful. So from here, we can go on this, like what everyone says, it's the healing journey, right?
Yeah.
So we say healing journey, and someone might imagine like an ashram or some trip to the Tibet or something like that. But since you mentioned that you work with some modalities and you work on healing from trauma, can you explain to us maybe how does this healing journey from trauma look like? It's also, I believe it's subjective. It's also different for everybody. But like overall, how does this path look like? And for everyone who is like suffering or struggling with a trauma, should they see a silver lining in this, and should they see a light in the end of the tunnel, let's say? And how was that from your experience? Maybe you can talk to us about that.
I would definitely like say there to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think also for me, like at the beginning, like it was very overwhelming, but I think like it's trauma, like it's we all go through it to some degree, so I think it should be something that should be normalized, because there could be like at the beginning like shame, or like maybe you don't want to like talk about certain things, maybe it's personal, maybe it's painful, so but I think it should be normalized, like how we clean our teeth like twice per day, we exercise, like I don't know, 3 times per week. So I think this emotional work and like work with our like thoughts, also like the conditioning, it should be like normalized, and it should be something that we all do, and it's normal and helpful, and it helps us like update our inner children, and like help them approach them with compassion, because maybe they don't know the compassion, and they're not familiar with the compassion and like understanding, so and we are being the parent, that that these inner children need,
Right, right. Yeah.
So
And how
I
about
hope
the
that
rest of
answered your
the
question. But yeah, I think to sum it up, like it should be like normalized. And yeah, because in these
right.
past generations, it was more about like physical survival. So and then these emotional selves, like there was like a lot of suffering, I think, you know. So we should normalize it, and I think it's already happening. And yeah.
Yeah, I guess everyone has some traumas to some degrees, right?
Yeah.
So, but
And it's
when
also like the ancestral things, you know. It's also like things that are passed like on from generations to generations, you know. It could be like of course, like we are talking mostly about childhood trauma, like, but it could be also like things that are like you know, from ancestral, from like birth trauma, you know. There is a lot of like in this world, like, you know, we are being born and we are experiencing the world, and I think like there is like a lot of things that are potentially like very challenging. So yeah.
yeah, that's a very interesting thing about the ancestral and the generational
Yeah.
trauma. I learned about it recently, and it was very strange concept that you might inherit traumas from your parents, but it also makes very much sense when you test it against science, because it's with genetics. Like there is this whole new field which is epigenetics that studies how your genes are activated
Yeah.
and because of environmental changes. So the traumas that our parents experienced will activate some genes in their bodies. And these genes, since they are activated, they will be passed to us. So
Yeah.
that was like very
Yeah,
epiphany.
yeah, I think it's like I also read like from, I think it was from Bruce Lipton, that, and then it depends, like if we are in the environment where we activate these genes, that's
Yeah.
kind of like that important, that we are not like determined by these genes, that this is like, okay, this is gonna happen to you, but it's more like if we activate these genes, and so it's like, so we don't feel like that this is our destiny or something like that, you know.
Right. Yeah. So talking about that, we also mentioned the concept of collective trauma,
Yeah.
which is the trauma that is experienced widespread on the society level, let's say. So can you maybe
Yeah.
tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I think it's like we, yeah, as we were talking about like personal pain and this personal trauma, um and as we understand like this part of our lives, you know, and connect the dots, and like you know, understand our own like family dynamics, and perhaps even the ancestral trauma, then we will start, because it's kind of like a pattern, so we will start seeing the patterns, like I don't know, in our society, like at work, like in our communities, like in the politics, you know, even. So yeah, so I think it's like a pattern that we learn to recognize, and yeah, not only in this our immediate environment, but then we'll start seeing it like you know, on like the broader spectrum as well, I think, you know. Yeah.
Are there any global traumas, like traumas
Yeah, I
experienced
think it's all
globally?
like you know, like it's all like global, you know. What we can see like on this like smaller scale, you can see these things on the bigger scale as well. Like for instance, like if you recognize like a manipulation, you know, like that was happening, you know, like I don't know, or like that you were being bullied, you know, at school, you know, then you will be able to see this like you know, how this is done to us, like through governments, you know, through like you know, on this like bigger scale, you know. So I think this is definitely the yeah, that then it's kind of like it opens up, you know, like another horizon. I think, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and yeah, that like about like things. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a very
Yeah.
interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
So now we can, like, can you talk to us about a little bit about the healing from trauma,
Mhm.
from your perspective, from what you do, like these methods and modalities that you use?
Yeah. So I mainly work with like modalities like EFT and IFS, so so internal family systems and emotional freedom technique. And I think they are both very good. Like EFT really helped me like with calming down the nervous system, because it's like, according to the Chinese medicine, we are tapping on the meridians, and that can be really like healing for our nervous system and to calm down the body responses. And internal family systems, it's like working with different parts of us. So it works with the theory of multiplicity, that we have like different parts, and we are approaching these parts with like kindness and compassion, and we are kind of like seeing like, okay, what happened to you, like, and we are updating these parts in kind of like, maybe that's like too much like in the nutshell, but yeah, I'm looking at this like emotion or this body sensation that I'm having, or like a thought, like disturbing thought, as a part of me that carries the burdens like from the past. And it's like, so it's like kind of like, I'm not an angry person, but I have an angry part, and let's have a look like why she's so angry, what happened to her, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this kind of like approach, yeah, that we look at the burdens and yeah, what happened to these parts, and yeah.
And what's your thought on the other practices, like the ancient wisdom practices, like if you heard craniosacral or acupuncture, what do you think of that?
I have tried acupuncture, craniosacral therapy. I've tried only like one time, so I think like I don't have enough like knowledge to kind of give my opinion, or you know, because I feel like there is a lot of modalities. So I think it's about like experiencing, you know, like experiencing them and seeing like what works the best for me. And yeah, so I would say like all these modalities are helpful. I think then you just have to see like, okay, like experience it, like, I don't know, have a session or two, and see like, okay, is this something that is helping me? And if yes, then keep doing it, you know, and yeah, maybe explore, like learn more about the modality. But yeah, there is a lot of modalities. So and I think they all have like same commonalities, if they're like good modalities, like, and they actually like help you with healing. There are commonalities, you know, things that are similar.
Right, right.
Yeah, so but yeah, but I would say that it's really like personal, it's individual, and see what works for you, like what modality works for you, and
Mm-hmm. And
that
from your
would be
experience, what works best for you?
for me, like the EFT helped me like a lot with calming down the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was like triggered, I was like I was experiencing intense emotions, and IFS, like, I think it was like very eye-opening approach to um, looking at my inner system, because I think we tend to like identify ourselves like with emotions, like, I don't know, like I am like this, I'm like that, you know, I'm not confident, you know, and all these things. And when you kind of look at it from this perspective, like, okay, this is a part of me that needs my attention, I think that was like something that is very simple, but it's very profound, I think. So this was for me, and yeah, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's can be for everybody something else, you know. So
right, right.
yeah,
So everyone should try
yeah.
as many as they can and see what works best.
Or maybe it doesn't have to be as many as you can. It can be like one and it works for you, and then you know, and I think that's great, you know, because I think it's yeah, because it can work like right from the beginning, you know.
Right,
I think not
right.
everybody, I think it was part of my journey that I experienced like maybe more modalities, but it doesn't have to be for everybody, you know. Like some people, they come to therapy and they start with like one modality and it's the right one. So
Mhm.
and it works, and they get good results, they feel
There's
better.
also EMDR.
Yeah.
What's your thought on this?
EMDR, I like EFT works a little bit with EMDR. There is one technique that's called 9-gamut, and that's kind of like a combination of like tapping and EMDR,
Mhm.
and I think it works very good with like yeah, to kind of work with these intense experiences. So yeah, so I think it's usually like used when with like more challenging memories,
Right.
to kind of decrease the
Intensity.
trigger, the intensity. So I think like I have good experiences with this.
Yeah, sounds great. So that was all, I think, for today. Thank you so much for giving.
Thank you for having me and for your questions, and thank you.
Thank you. That was very helpful, and I'm hoping to see you other episodes in the future.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks.